The registry itself isn't actually a research project, it's a resource for health in St Helena. But the methodology by which we came to select St Helena was part of a research project. So just a little bit of local context. In 2022, there was a joint strategic national assessment that didn't really paint a pretty picture of either health data availability or chronic disease in St Helena. And these stats may all seem a bit bleak, with almost a quarter of adults taking at least one diabetes medication, but St Helena is by no means alone. St Helena is in the same boat as many other small island developing states, including Barbados, which is where I'm currently based. And this group of territories and islands are now recognised by the UN as a group of countries and territories with specific challenges arising from small size and remoteness. They also have a disproportionately high burden of NCDs with increased chance of premature mortality. So as you can see, as towards the end of the graph, as likelihood increases, there's more yellow bands which represent the SIDS. So to add to that, SIDS are also data poor, and this is highlighted by the SDG reporting by SIDS. And as you can see from these graphs, that they're not progressing as fast as any of their regional counterparts. And this difference is even more noticeable when you have a look at data that are stratified by gender or sex. Recognising these factors, WHO have made various recommendations to combat NCDs, one of which is to try and ensure the timely availability of reliable and accurate data on NCD risk factors, prevalence and mortality. So taking this on board, UKHSA have provided funding for a project to strengthen surveillance capacity in the UCOTS. The idea was to identify 2 UCOTS that were best placed to implement a disease registry. So we wanted to understand the environment and facilitators that contribute to successful registry implementation, with a view to creating lessons learned for the other territories that weren't selected. And obviously we wanted to identify 2 territories for registry implementation. We created tools that would improve our understanding of the feasibility of a registry and the readiness of a territory. So we used various constructs and domains from the Consolidated Framework for Implementation Research, the AHRQ Guidelines for Registry Development, and then we supplemented these with items from the Pulse Registry Readiness Assessment. So just a little bit about the Consolidated Framework for Implementation Research, so CFIR. So it has 5 domains. The outer settings, which are essentially the things outside the health sector that influence health. Then we have the inner setting, which is all aspects of the health system. And then the innovation for this particular project is actually the registry. And last but not least, there are the individuals who will take part in the implementation and the implementation process itself. So we started with discussions with 10 territories during the last quarter of 2022. And at that early stage, 2 declined to participate. 8 were then invited to participate, but only 6 could provide approvals within the time frame. And then those 6 took part in the feasibility assessment. And from that, we found that most of the territories were interested in setting up a registry with a view to monitoring and improving care in either cancer, type 2 diabetes or hypertension. Of those who completed the feasibility, 2 weren't able to meet the deadline for taking part in the readiness assessment. So we had 4 territories that took part in the readiness assessment. And of those, 2 were selected for registry implementation. And I'll go into the selection criteria a bit in a second. And at this stage, we were essentially at the registry implementation was started around this time last year. So that initial process took about a year. So the results for the readiness assessment, at this point, we were interested in support for the concept of a registry at all levels, as well as the staff available to guide the project. We'd identified two sort of key roles. One was a project lead to sort of do high-level troubleshooting and get high-level buy-in, as well as a focal point who would be the go-to person for queries and on-site stakeholder engagement. Although we had two high scores for readiness assessment, which enabled us to select the territories, one of the key things that was found in both readiness and the feasibility as a recurring theme were the potential for limited staff or limited staff time to support a registry. So, as you can see from the facilitators and barriers, the lack of sort of staff time is flagged both as the outer setting and at the individual level. But on a more positive note, there are facilitators that include support from agencies like UKHSA or WHO, which are aligned with the goals of St Helena and some of the other territories that were also involved. One thing to bear in mind that isn't necessarily relevant to St Helena at the moment, but maybe in the future, was the link between the private healthcare sector and the registry team. So if St Helena were looking to expand, it would be important to make sure that representation was there as part of the registry team. So for St Helena, we found that in the outer setting and the inner setting, there was health. The registry was a priority, and there was support from all levels. The registry is GDPR compliant, so when that legislation comes into St Helena, it'll be ready. And then on the inner setting, registries are a priority for health, and they're particularly interested in NCDs and disabilities. And obviously the diabetes registry is a great start for that. So where are we up to now? We're up and running, and the database contains 2 years of historic data. Once the electronic health record system, the new electronic health system is up and running, we can also supplement this with historic data. We now have a lean team of 2 people and a manual to help with the updating of processes and reporting. And we've developed a short-term sustainability plan. As part of the next phase, we'll implement the sustainability plan, look at longer-term sustainability, and as well as continued ongoing training and mentorship to maintain data quality and make sure that data entry continues. For the future, things to be considered as the electronic health record system is being updated. If that can be done in conjunction with registry scientists, that would make sure that we're future-proofing any further attempts to build more registries. So it's not just diabetes. You can actually make sure the methodology is scalable. We need to be mindful of multiple roles. So people often in small islands wear lots of different hats and reliance on a single person. We also need to ensure that any development of the private sector is integrated with any surveillance activities. So potential solutions or sort of holistic considerations. So due to sort of limited capacity, registry networks could combat challenges related to limited resources. Obviously, it helps you leverage economies of scale, capitalising on regional initiatives, particularly with the UCOTs. Depending on which regions they're in, they have access to different levels of support. And there's no reason why you might be able to leverage the inclusion of other additional UCOTs. And last but by no means least, with this transition towards kind of surveillance and data reuse, it's key to prepare health professionals for the new a new data-focused culture.
Selvi, 5 minutes, please. 5 minutes.
That's it. I'm done now. Thank you.
There you go.
So yes, thank you to everybody, Jackie Campbell in particular from our team, who a lot of this work wouldn't have been possible without. Obviously the UWE registry team, the St Helena registry team and the ethics committee and IT in St Helena.